Chapter 299, Tang Sect Number 1, Guanyin crying, TL by Bagelson. Chen Ringxiu appeared in the air, slowly floating down. Her expression had become very unsightly. Of course not because she's seriously hurt by Tang San's purple godlight. Tang San's mental strength might be powerful, but the gap in realms was too large, and the purple godlight couldn't possibly harm Chen Ringxiu's divine senses. But Chen Ringxiu was angry just because of this. She was clearly a god, but when fighting Tang San she never felt powerful at all. She was basically unable to show her full strength, and Tang San actually cut open her domain like this. In fact, this was her first time using the god-level domain. No matter what, it wasn't a good start. That Tang San entered the angelic domain with his eyes closed wasn't because he felt sight was useless in the god-level domain. It was clearly in order to store power for the purple godlight. You already prepared to use that mental attack against me? No. Chen Ringxiu landed 30 meters in front of Tang San, asking coldly. At this moment Tang San was like a harmless sheep. He no longer posed any threat to her, and there still remained the last bit of that incense. Of course, with Chen Ringxiu's divine senses, she was very clear on just when it would stop burning, and finally she demanded 2 questions of Tang San. Tang San nodded, looking somewhat disdainfully at Chen Ringxiu. That's right, I already prepared to use the purple godlight against you. The way I see it, you should never have let me complete the disorder-splitting wind hammer method. 81 superimposed swings, plus the energy from my ring detonation, had a very large probability of cutting open your angelic domain with the death god domain. You made 2 mistakes. One was that you didn't immediately attack me with your main body the moment you released the domain. That was my weakest moment. Additionally, even I didn't think that, as a god, you would actually react this slowly. My disorder-splitting wind hammer was used until the end when you discovered it. Therefore, I split your domain. Even though I couldn't injure you, this is already enough for me. Chen Ringxiu smiled, smiling in extreme fury. Good, Tang San, you really are a genius. But I'm no longer going to try to subdue you, because I discovered that I really don't have the ability to control you. Therefore, I have to kill you now, so that your intelligence can never be used against me. The incense still hasn't run out. Our bet still isn't over. Killing you now doesn't count as breaking our agreement. While speaking, she slowly raised her right hand, and gaudy golden flame instantly condensed into an angelic sword. Chen Ringxiu only needed a soft swing to instantly remove Tang San from this world. Hang on. Tang San suddenly spoke up. You still have something to say? The incense is about to burn out, but you still have 30 seconds to declare your final words. I really have to admire your intelligence and strength. That's why I give you this opportunity. Chen Ringxiu raised the angelic sword condensed from divine power, slowly approaching Tang San step by step. She was very slow, but she would definitely reach Tang San in 30 seconds and swing that sword. 30 seconds? Then thank you. Actually, I only wanted to tell you that I still don't lack the power to retaliate. You've forgotten, I actually have 1 spirit ring left. I only want to bet with you again. I'll rely on the power of the last spirit ring to break open that angelic defense from before. Ridiculous. Do you believe I would still accept? You need not stall for time. Fine, you still have 20 seconds. If you can break my defense, you might be able to last the time we bet on before. Come, let me see what attack you still have that can cut open my angelic defense. Even a god would have to rely on a divine tool to break my defense. Chen Ringxiu was already furious. The reason she didn't immediately cut down Tang San was in order to retrieve a speck of dignity in this final moment when she completely controlled the situation. If Tang San couldn't break her defense and was killed by her sword, then the weakness in her heart would shrink by a lot. She could also fully use this fury to kill Tang San without leaving behind any repercussions. Therefore, while speaking, the golden eggshell layer that appeared before descended once again, enveloping her completely. Tang San nodded earnestly. Then be careful. Golden blue light rushed out, and Tang San once again released his blue-silver emperor spirit. Just like Chen Ringxiu guessed. Indeed, Tang San still had the strength for a last attack. When Tang San detonated his 8th blue-silver emperor spirit ring before he was seriously hurt by the angelic sword, and this 9th spirit ring didn't detonate. Afterwards he used the power of the clear sky hammer. Now, Tang San released the blue-silver emperor's surviving 9th spirit ring. So what if it exploded? The power of the blue-silver emperor's ring detonation was far less than the clear sky hammer. How could Chen Ringxiu be convinced that Tang San could break her formidable defense while seriously injured and nearly out of spirit power? Tang San's expression turned very sincere. Chen Ringxiu was still 15 meters away, and also 15 seconds away, approaching step by second. At this short distance it was like the death god beckoned him. Chen Ringxiu had complete confidence in killing Tang San the moment before the incense was extinguished. Boom! Just like Chen Ringxiu expected, Tang San detonated the last spirit ring of his 2 spirits. At the same time as the sky blue ball python 9th spirit ring exploded, making that golden blue radiance completely reverse upon Tang San. He swallowed a golden speck of light. It was Oscar's 7th spirit ability, erect gold fly, aware that this time he had to employ this trump card. If the Shrek 7 devils who were familiar with Tang San were here, they would definitely understand that the attack Tang San used next might be the strongest attack he had. Unfortunately, Chen Ringxiu wasn't familiar with Tang San's life and habits, and she absolutely didn't believe Tang San could raise any waves. Instantly raising his right hand in front of him, detonating his last spirit ring, Tang San finally had the power for the last attack. With a PFF, Tang San spit out a mouthful of blood. Overexerting himself had affected his injuries, but his right hand was still smeared with blood. A bizarre scene occurred. The faintly golden color quietly retreated within that blood, only leaving a small, transparent droplet in Tang San's hand. And Tang San's right hand had now turned completely jade-colored. Absolutely don't underestimate his simple swing. If he hadn't refined controlling crane catching dragon to the peak, not cultivated mysterious jade hand to the peak, it would be impossible for him to remove all the water from the blood with a swing, refining it into a drop in his hand. Tang San's gaze grew even more far-reaching. In this moment, Chen Ringxiu suddenly felt as if Tang San's entire body had become one hand, and this hand of his held only that one drop of water, an all too common drop made of only water. The golden blue radiance was abruptly curved. At this moment, Tang San actually withdrew his blue-silver emperor, and in its place, white mist surged out of his body, turning into 3 enormous lotus flowers that condensed in the air above him. As he swung his right hand, drawing out that drop of water, all the mist instantly contracted, completely condensing into that drop of water, turning it a crystalline milky white color. Even though Tang San's changes were bizarre, Chen Ringxiu's heart tightened even more. Tang San had even withdrawn his spirit, so how could he still cause any trouble? She was still 10 meters away from Tang San, and Tang San could already feel the scorching heat from that angelic sword, a feeling as if his soul was being scorched. But Tang San basically didn't even seem to see Chen Ringxiu. His gaze sincerely fixed on his hand, that seemingly jade hand, and that milky white drop. You should feel honored, because ever since coming to this world, this is the first time I used this ability. He closed his eyes. This time, Tang San truly closed both eyes, and the next moment he seemed to have sunk into a sheet of white. Even Chen Ringxiu didn't see how he moved, but that white drop had already disappeared in Tang San's right hand. Guanyin, 1, crying. Chen Ringxiu's steps slowed, the expression on her face also frozen with her eyes opened wide, her face completely rigid. Even her feet maintained a walking pose, but she never completed the step. It was difficult to believe that such an incredulous expression appeared on the face of a god, but Chen Ringxiu's expression was this. Tang San swayed, having to rely on the 8 spider lance's support to keep himself from collapsing. His face was completely bloodless, but his eyes revealed a light of pride and victory. The incense was extinguished, the time was finally up. Subsequently, the angelic sword of divine force in Chen Ringxiu's hand was also extinguished, and vanished into specks of light. She slowly lowered her head, looking at her chest with a gaze filled with disbelief. That incomparably solid golden eggshell that had blocked Tang San's all-out ring detonation clear sky hammer strike, now had a small hole, a seemingly unremarkable little hole. There wasn't even any cracks around it, and on her palatial gown, there was equally cut an identical little hole. That place was precisely on her heart. Behind her there was also the same hole in the same place. The two were practically connected. The same little hole had also appeared on the back of that golden eggshell. A pure gold trickle of blood dripped from the corner of Chen Ringxiu's mouth. Yes, her heart was stabbed through by that tiny, seemingly insignificant milky white drop. The angelic defense was broken, and even if it was just that one little hole, it was already enough. Chen Ringxiu slowly raised her head, looking at Tang San, her eyes already deeply perplexed. Guanyin crying? What ability is this? I never sensed it. Her voice was still calm, golden blood constantly dripping from the corners of her mouth. This attack wasn't enough to take her life. She could still survive with her heart pierced. This injury that would be fatal to ordinary people still couldn't instantly kill her. But without a doubt, Chen Ringxiu was seriously injured from this attack. The god of angels was seriously injured. Tang San sighed. My power is still insufficient, otherwise it shouldn't have stabbed through your heart, but rather made it explode. If that was the case, then even a god might end up half dead. Guanyin crying. Guanyin's tear. Guanyin's tear? I've never heard the name. Is this your created spirit ability? Chen Ringshu looked dumbfounded at Tang San. Tang San shook his head. No, I can't call it my created spirit ability, because I don't have the skill to produce such a miraculous ability. I can only tell you that this is my Tang Sect's #1 spirit ability. The Tang Sect's first ranked hidden weapon. Yes, this drop that pierced the angelic defense, penetrating Chen Ringshu's heart, was Guanyin's tear, always ranked #1 in the mysterious Heaven Treasure Records 100 hidden weapon dissertation. Even Badi sat for Guanyin would have to cry. What kind of terrifying hidden weapon this was? Using Guanyin's tear had countless prerequisites. Mysterious Jade Hand, controlling Crane Catching Dragon and Ghost Shadow Perplexing Track all had to be cultivated to the peak, and at the same time the mysterious Heaven skill had to reach the highest 3 flowers gathering above level. There were also a lot of other requests. One attack drew out all the strength. That was an attack condensed of heart and soul. The mysteries of Guanyin's tear was something even Tang San couldn't understand. At most he knew how to use it, and not the underlying theory. This was the Tang Sect's strongest hidden weapon, a skill far surpassing any other skills. Without need to spirits, Tang San's final trump card was this Guanyin's tear. The reason why he couldn't use the Blue Silver Emperor's Knight's spirit ability before wasn't that he was unable to, but rather that this strongest spirit ring explosion was saved for Guanyin's tear. This was his final move. If all his previous efforts weren't enough to stop Chen Ringshu, then Guanyin's tear was his attack to destroy both Jade and Common Rock. Tang San succeeded. He completed the first use of Guanyin's tear. His weak body basically couldn't influence his excitement. Just like when he produced the Buddha Fury Tang Lotus in his last world, his feelings right now couldn't be described in words. It seemed like it would be worth it even if he died in the next moment. Tang San still clearly remembered how, in his last world, even the Tang Sect's leader could at most use the second-ranked body's blood, and basically nobody could use Guanyin's tear. But he succeeded. At this moment, Tang San could be fully certain that he already stood at the highest peak of the Tang Sect. Who said man's abilities couldn't harm a god? Didn't Guanyin's tear complete this god-breaking process? Even if he didn't have the attack power doubling erect gold fly, Tang San was still certain that Guanyin's tear could split Chen Ringshu's defense. Guanyin's tears had one simple line of explanation. Ignores defense, never fails. 4 simple words, but they adequately described what kind of ability it was. Tang San really wanted to laugh to his heart's content, but unfortunately, right now he didn't even have the strength to smile. The Tang Sect's #1 hidden weapon, Chen Ringshu's golden light reappeared, the trickle of pure golden blood from the corner of her mouth stopping. Looking at Tang San, her eyes revealed extremely complex emotions. Even if she was seriously injured, she still possessed absolutely formidable strength. She was hesitating whether to go against the terms of the bet and kill Tang San right now. Then, is this Tang Sect of yours an inheritance left behind by some god? Otherwise, how could you use an ability that even a god can't block? Yes, this was definitely left behind by a god. Chen Ringshu muttered. No. Tang San said firmly, this isn't the power of gods, but the ingenuity of humans, the strength of the experience and intelligence of countless generations of Tang Sect ancestors fully condensed. Saying so, Tang San's pale face filled with a proud light, and Chen Ringshu couldn't help being dumbfounded as she watched. Faint golden light roamed over Chen Ringshu's body, her expression turning even more indeterminable. A few times she wanted to raise her hand, but finally never did. Drawing a deep breath, looking at the not distant now already extinguished incense, Chen Ringshu seemed to make a firm resolution. Leave. Leave immediately before I change my mind. 3 days. According to the terms of the bet, you only have 3 days to run. I don't need you to serve me. In 3 days, I will use all my strength to hunt down and kill you, using the full strength of the god of angels, including the power of divine weapons. You only have 3 days. Tang San's body shook. He'd won. He'd really won. Not only did he win this battle, he also defeated Chen Ringshu's heart. Compared to this battle, that day and night were even more important for him to judge Chen Ringshu's character and manner. If he'd made the slightest mistake, then now he would only be a corpse. Thank you. Actually, you had a lot of opportunities to kill me, but you always gave me a chance. Even though I don't understand why, I am lucky. Chen Ringshu, if someday you really are defeated by my hand, I will spare your life once. Tang San calmly said to Chen Ringshu, his expression extremely sincere. Despite being so weak right now, by his expression, Chen Ringshu could clearly sense his intense and true confidence. Think about how you will face my full strength pursuit in 3 days first. You're quite clever, even the most brilliant control-type spirit master I've seen. But, as absolute strength descends, no matter how good your stratagems, they will still be useless. Human strength has limits, but gods do not. Tang San, I've let you escape from me twice, but you've also taught me many things. Facing the enemy, one absolutely can't give the opponent any chances. I will still thank you for it. Tang San smiled slightly. There's one thing you're wrong on. The strength of gods isn't limitless. Gods are also exhausted at times. Next time you meet, I think I should be able to see your true divine strength. Goodbye. Throwing a glance filled with reluctance at the sea god trident stuck in the ground, Tang San clenched his teeth. He knew he had no chance to take back this divine tool, and Chen Ringshu wouldn't let him take it away. What he had done so far had already completely overtaxed his abilities. Turning away, he stooped with some difficulty, resisting the violent dizziness. Urging the 8 spider lancers to move quickly, he advanced into the distance. The moment Tang San left, what he thought about deep down was that, if he had known he'd face such a powerful enemy earlier, he should have asked Little Owl for more hairy caterpillars and gold flies. Tang San's silhouette gradually disappeared from Chen Ringshu's line of sight. After a long time, she finally couldn't help it, and vomited out a mouthful of pure golden blood. With a thump, she sat directly on the ground. Her face revealed a strange smile. Tang San, oh Tang San, you're so clever, but in the end you were wrong on one point. I think this was definitely your first time using this ability, since you actually didn't even know its strength yourself. It did indeed pierce through my heart, but my heart is already truly shattered. If you could have condensed a speck more divine power on top of it, maybe you really could have killed me. Guanyin's tear passed through her heart, and where it passed, her heart exploded, the artery shattering. Even a god-level pal like Chen Ringshu basically didn't have the strength to fight anymore. All of her divine power was condensed on her heart, imitating it to keep her body going. Even though gods have great power, the heart was still important. Even with her strength, she was still going to need at least 3 days to reconstruct it. All of her hesitation before was a show for Tang San. She just didn't want him to see she was this deeply wounded. The might of Guanyin's tear could only be truly understood from experience. Chen Ringshu believed that, if she wasn't a god, it would basically have been impossible to survive the attack. But she also firmly decided to absolutely never give Tang San the chance to use this attack again. Guanyin's tear needed time to charge strength, and next time she would definitely wear the angelic raiment. Thank you for telling me. Just at this moment, Tang San's voice suddenly echoed faintly from behind Chen Ringshu. Shocked, she sharply turned her head, only to see Tang San had actually appeared standing next to the sea god trident at some point. He was already holding it with one hand. How could Tang San willingly leave like that? He already saw the sea god trident as his best partner. That was the sea god's glory. Even if he could survive, if he had to abandon this glory, Tang San knew he would never be able to inherit the sea god's position again. Therefore, after leaving Chen Ringshu's line of sight, he had released his vast sea barrier and used its stealth ability to sneak back, approaching his divine weapon from behind just in case. It was also just at the moment he arrived next to the sea god trident that he heard what Chen Ringshu said and spoke up. Chen Ringshu looked at Tang San with alarm and fury intermingled. This fellow was already so difficult to deal with without the sea god trident, so Chen Ringshu really didn't know what would happen if she let him take it back now. Don't get excited. Absolutely don't get excited. The heart shattering is a major event. Rely on your divine power to slowly recover. In fact, even though you have enough strength to instantly kill me right now, if you do, you might not be able to persevere. Even if you don't die, you'll still be left with an incurable injury. It would be better for you to follow the rules of the bet. We'll meet again in 3 days. Tang San's face revealed revealed a gentle smile for the first time since he met Chen Rinchu. Nodding to her, he quietly turned away. This time he truly left. He didn't attack Chen Rinchu, not only because he was weak right now, but even more because he understood that even with her heart already shattered, Chen Rinchu still had the ability to kill him. Therefore, at this moment he still kept calm without getting greedy, and then turned to leave. Watching Tang San's back disappear, Chen Rinchu spit out blood once again. Meeting Tang San in the Stardew Great Forest was her second contest with Tang San, and with an even larger difference in strength than last time. But she still lost. Even though Tang San was also injured, she was still the one who lost. She was unreconciled, truly unreconciled. 3 days. Tang San, I want to see how far you can run in 3 days. Fiercely clenching her teeth, Chen Rinchu closed her eyes and began to reconstruct her heart. Tang San was very satisfied, eating a few big recovery sausages while moving towards the exit of the Stardew Great Forest. Right now his body was too weak to fly, but his recovery abilities helped by the big recovery sausages had already started to quickly restore his body. Tang San believed that he could completely recover before long. 3 days was enough for him to do many things. With this 3-day buffer, anything was possible. Tightly gripping the sea god trident, he had never felt so deeply for this tool as now. Having lost and then regained it, the feeling of harmony had never been so strong. Tang San secretly swore that, no matter how difficult, he definitely wouldn't let the sea god trident leave him again. The sea god trident seemed to also feel Tang San's intentions, and a warm feeling spread into Tang San's body from the dark pole lamp, nourishing his body. Tang San's own powerful recovery ability plus the blue silver emperor right leg bone self-recovery quickly restored his condition. 10 hours later, Tang San finally left the Stardew Great Forest. If he had been at his peak, he would only have needed 6, even shorter if he could fly, but his condition was too lacking. Using 10 hours was already sparing no effort. Only, in these 10 hours, his injuries had already healed by 30 to 40%, and his spirit power 20% or so. Tang San cheerfully discovered that his spirit power had made another leap. Even though he still hadn't completely recovered yet, he could be practically sure that he successfully stepped past the 96 rank barrier, entering an all-new realm. In fact, rank 95 to 96, even if it was just a 1 rank difference, differed in twice the spirit power. All his shattered spirit rings needed 3 days to recover. These 3 days would also be as he rushed with all his strength. Now discovering that his spirit power had broken through once again was clearly an important balance weigh on whether he could escape Chen Rinchu's pursuit in 3 days. Of course, Tang San absolutely wouldn't confidently believe he could truly stand against Chen Rinchu. He didn't know what divine weapon Chen Rinchu possessed, but the angelic ring that definitely existed. Those were 6 spirit bones in the god level. The power they contained was obvious. After Tang San won the bet, he had already firmly resolved to absolutely not clash with Chen Rinchu again before becoming a god. Having taken so much punishment, she absolutely wouldn't give him any more chances. Exiting the Stardew Great Forest, Tang San moved another 10 li or so before stopping, and started to cultivate. This should already be outside of Chen Rinchu's divine sense range. Honing the knife didn't delay cutting wood, and if he was to avoid getting killed in 3 days, his current speed wasn't enough. There was still a long distance from here to the sea. He had to recover his full strength to be able to reach the destination and converge with his companions in 3 days. If he entered the wide sea, then he could let the fish leap in the ocean, and the birds fly in the sky. Even if she really could find him, then he would have even more of an advantage facing her in the sea than the Stardew Great Forest. If the sea god's successor really was killed by an enemy while in the ocean, then he really didn't deserve inheriting the sea god's position. Sitting down cross-legged, this time Tang San didn't stab the sea god trident into the ground next to him like usual, but rather placed it across his knees. He would feel his partner's existence at all times. Closing his eyes, Tang San directly entered a cultivation state. When he looked into his body, he couldn't help showing a wry smile. Without carefully observing, he hadn't discovered that his body was actually broken to this degree. If not for the god level 8 spiral lancers on his back as well as the blue silver emperor right leg bone and the sea god trident strength, he might have already collapsed. Today was the first time Tang San detonated spirit rings, and he had fully enjoyed the terrifying might it gave, but the side effects had also completely shown up. First of all was weakness. Never mind that his spirit power recovery rate was only a fifth of normal. The constant feeling of weakness almost drove him insane. Without the numerous spirit rings, the attributes of his body had also weakened substantially, and this influenced his recovery speed. And right now the magnitude of the injuries to his energy channels, especially after just absorbing the 315-ton Ant Emperor Brothers spirit rings, at least 3/5 of his energy channels showed varying degrees of damage. Due to his now insufficient spirit power, even though the effect of the blue silver emperor right leg bones wildfire burns unending, spring wind blows new life ability was powerful, its speed was still very slow. Carefully sensing the conditions of his body, while Tang San started to focus on cultivating, his heart rate also slowed. He knew that with his current injuries, recovering to his peak condition would take at least a day and a half, and in the remaining day and a half, even if he flew at top speed, it was still impossible to reach the sea. In other words, no matter what, there was a chance Chen Rinchu would catch up to him. Indeed, the vast sea barrier's hiding ability really was extraordinary, but Tang San still knew that the reason he could sneak up behind Chen Rinchu before was because her heart was smashed, weakening her, and when she pursued him once again, she would fully use the divine tool and strength belonging to the god of angels. At that time, whether he could hide from her pursuit was difficult to say. Tang San could be practically certain that Chen Rinchu would have some way of tracking him. Even so, he had no other choice right now but to sit down and slowly cultivate. He was telling himself one thing right now: the closer he got to the ocean in 3 days, the better. Tang San was very intelligent, but Chen Rinchu's evaluation of him neglected one thing: Tang San's calm. As a person of two worlds, his actual age should already be past 50, and his attitude was far beyond that of people of a similar age. After Grandmaster took Tang San as a disciple, the first thing he taught him was the word calm. As a control-type spirit master, if he couldn't maintain a calm heart, then he would never succeed. Therefore, the greater the crisis Tang San faced, the more calm he was. Mount. Tide collapsing couldn't make him change expression. He could pull strongly against the tide in a crisis, doing things others couldn't, creating miracles. Consequently, even in such a discouraging situation, Tang San was still calm, cultivating quietly and doing the best to adjust his condition, healing his body bit by bit instead of being anxious for quick results. Because he knew that at this moment the worst thing he could do was make mistakes, or he would really be finished, losing even his last chance. 1. Guanyin, the bodhisattva of compassion.